Inner Light, Esoteric Wisdom for the Soul's Ascent is a contemplative space devoted to unveiling the hidden teachings that have guided mystics, seekers, and sages across the ages. Now embarks on a journey into the heart of one of the Islamic world's most enigmatic mysteries. Whispers in the smokeless fire, the origin and appalling presence of the Jinn. When we turn inward, seeking the truths that flicker beneath the surface of everyday experience, we inevitably encounter those presences which defy simple explanation. Beings who inhabit the liminal spaces between fear and fascination, dread and wonder. The Jinn, spoken of in hushed tones across centuries, form a parallel nation whose stories are woven through the sacred texts and the living folklore of Arabia. They are not mere shadows, nor inventions of trembling minds, but entities whose existence is affirmed by the Quran and explored in the vast corpus of Hadith. This exploration is not simply about cataloging terrors or recounting ancient superstitions. It is about tracing the subtle teachings that lie beneath the surface, those whispers that have shaped the mystical understanding of creation and the unseen. The Jinn, born of smokeless fire, are described in the Quran as possessing free will, intellect, and the capacity for both virtue and vice. Their world touches ours in moments of uncanny coincidence and inexplicable encounter, inviting humility before the mysteries that govern both visible and invisible realms. Through tales of scholars and poets, of desert wanderers and city dwellers, we find the Jinn not only as adversaries but as mirrors, reflecting the complexities of the human soul, the boundaries of knowledge, and the longing for guidance in a world never fully mapped. Their presence is a lesson in vigilance, a reminder to recite, to remember, and to approach the unknown with both reverence and caution. As we journey through scriptural testimony, prophetic warning, and the haunted corridors of Arabian memory, let us do so with the inner light that seeks not only answers but deeper questions. For in the hush of night, as the last ember fades and the silence thickens, the watchers endure, and the story of the Jinn remains, waiting for those willing to listen beyond the lamplight. When the last vestige of daylight is devoured by the horizon and the world lies cloaked in its primordial hush, the imagination of humankind is never alone. In the silent wastes where the wind combs the sand into sighing dunes, in the alleys of old cities where shadows run ahead of the lantern, there is a certainty older than scripture. We are watched, and sometimes we are not the highest watchers. Islam, with a candor that unsettles the modern mind, does not banish such presences to the nursery of myth. Rather, it gives them a genealogy, a substance, and a terrifying autonomy. The Jinn are not metaphors but neighbours, unseen, implacable, and as morally ambivalent as ourselves. To trace the origin of the Jinn is to trespass upon the very grammar of concealment. The Arabic root jinn, which births jinn, denotes that which is hidden, shrouded, secreted from the naked eye. In this root, the language itself becomes a map of the unseen. The child enwombed, the seed buried, the garden walled by thicket, and the intelligence that skirts the edge of perception. The Quran, with unblinking sobriety, declares, "And the Jinn we created before man, from scorching fire," Surah Al-Hijr 15:27. This is not a fire that warms or cooks. It is a fire without smoke, a phenomenon without substance, an ontology that baffles even the physicist. The Jinn are not mere spirits, but beings with bodies of a sort, fashioned from what seems to be the very entropy of creation, volatile and brilliant, capable of both enlightenment and annihilation. Their antiquity is a matter not merely of theology but of folk memory. Long before the Quran, the Arabian night was thick with their presence. Poets of the Jahiliyyah boasted of their Shane, a private demon whose tongue of flame composed their verses. Lone shepherds, lost in the trembling cold, would claim to hear voices rising from the sandwhirls, beseeching a draught of milk or a curse against a rival. Raiders blamed their misfortunes on ghouls, creatures whose hunger for marrow was insatiable. These were not gods nor ghosts, but something more ambiguous and more proximate, a shadow that moved with uncanny agency beneath the moon. The pre-Islamic rites, for all their invocation of idols, could not contain these entities. They lingered at the periphery, at once feared and placated, the ever-present risk at the edge of the firelight. With the advent of Islam, the jinn were neither discarded as superstition nor elevated to divinity. Instead, revelation performed a chilling recalibration. The jinn are real, numerous, and crucially responsible. The Quran is unflinching in its assertion. The jinn will be judged as men are judged, for they too possess intellect, passion, and will. The 7th Surah, Al-Araf, resounds with the warning, "He and his tribe behold you from where you see them not." The terror is not merely of what they might do, but of what they always know, an asymmetrical gaze, a surveillance that cannot be returned, only endured. Yet the Quran does not permit the jinn the dignity of divinity. They are created, not creators. Their power is real, their lifespan unfathomable, their knowledge vast, but all is contingent upon the will of God. The Prophet Muhammad's encounter with the jinn, as recorded in both Quran and Hadith, is not a conquest but a negotiation. One night, near Nakhla, as he recited the revelation in prayer, a company of jinn listened unseen, then returned to their own kind to declare that the heavens were now closed, the commerce of prophecy suspended. In that moment, the ancient cosmology of Arabia was upended. No longer could calamity or blessing be ascribed to the caprice of the unseen. All was the decree of a single, unassailable authority. If there is a prince among the jinn, it is Iblis, the adversary, the first to rebel. His refusal to prostrate before Adam, as commanded, is recorded in the Quran as the inaugural sin, arrogance. "I am better than he. You created me from fire and him from clay." In a single breath, Iblis invents pride, envy, and the first taxonomy of worth. Cast down, he does not retreat to silence, but vows to unspool the line of Adam by whisper and insinuation. The Quran's injunction is stark. "He and his tribe see you from where you see them not." It is not brute force that undoes humanity, but suggestion, a corrosion of certainty that seeps in where faith is thin. The story of Solomon offers a counterpoint, a chapter of both mastery and hubris. Endowed by God with knowledge of the hidden, Solomon commands the jinn as laborers, artisans, divers for treasures beneath the sea. His throne is built not only by human hands but by those forged from fire, and the boundaries of his kingdom are policed by entities whose loyalty is compelled, not granted. Yet his death unmasks the illusion of control. Propped upon his staff, Solomon's corpse remains upright, and the jinn continue their toil, ignorant until the smallest creature, a worm, gnaws through the wood and the king collapses. Thus is power revealed as contingent, and even the jinn, for all their knowledge, are made fools by a grub. Islamic tradition, unlike its folklore, resists a fixed taxonomy of the jinn. Where the Quran and Hadith are reticent, popular imagination is profuse. The Merid, a titan of the sea, salt-encrusted and ancient. The Ifrit, winged and brazen, whose laughter warps the hinges of iron gates. The Ghoul, a graveyard cannibal. The Sila, a mirage-spinning deceiver. The Hin and Bin, whose cries predate the memory of man. Each name is a permutation of Jannah, to hide or conceal. Their reality is not their appearance, but their opacity. They are, above all, that which cannot be seen and which, when seen, blights the witness. Hadith does not linger on classification but on confrontation. The Prophet is recorded as both exorcist and comforter. A companion stands guard and sees a shadow coil towards him. The throne verse, Ayat al-Kursi, is recited and the entity retreats. A child convulses, his voice twisted. A single prophetic touch, and the affliction dissolves. The message is always twofold. Remembrance is protection, and unguarded hearts are invitations. The modern world, for all its clinical detachment, has not exorcised the jinn. In the consulting rooms of London, Kuala Lumpur, and Riyadh, patients describe themselves as bewitched or seized, masru, To dismiss every such case as delusion is, perhaps, its own form of arrogance. To accept it blindly is a surrender of reason. The contemporary Muslim psychiatrist finds himself at a crossroads. SSRIs and Ruqyah, psychotherapy and Surah al-Baqarah, benzodiazepines and invocations. The data is ambiguous. Some find their symptoms abate after recitation. Others do not. Placebo or baraka, the science cannot settle what the soul insists upon. That terror leaves marks, and the unseen, when it chooses to become manifest, is as real as a fever or a wound. The law, too, has felt the pressure of the jinn. Medieval jurists debated cases that would bewilder the secular mind. Can a woman married to a jinni claim maintenance? If a man is possessed, is he liable for his actions? If a jinn commits arson, can it be brought to trial? Most erudite opinions circled back to the Quran. We have honored the children of Adam. If the jinn cannot be summoned to court, they will be summoned on the day when all secrets are judged. For now, the law hints at humility, a recognition that not all actors in the drama are visible, and not all debts can be settled here. The jinn, ever protean, have adapted to the world of neon and microchips. The old terrors have not been banished by antibiotics or streetlights. They have simply migrated. Security cameras record lifts descending to empty basements. Microphones pick up polyglot whispers on empty frequencies. Toddlers babble to red uncles, who vanish when the lights are turned on. In one block of flats in North London, every midnight brings a symphony of fire alarms. None wired, none powered. The council blames faulty circuits. The residents whisper of Shane Al-Kabaya, the demon of crawl spaces, restless since the building's foundations disturbed a plague pit. Islam's jinn are not alone in the world's night. The Shidim of Hebrew legend, the Greek daimons, the Celtic Ausi, the Haitian Loa. Every culture knows a category neither angelic nor human, neither wholly good nor irredeemably wicked. Yet Islam's jinn are unique in their legal parity with humans. They convert, apostatize, marry, bequeath, rebel, and above all, will face the book, open on the last day. The drama of salvation is not a monologue. The stage is crowded, and the watchers are also the watched. The physicist, peering into the darkness, names it dark matter, an invisible mass, perceptible only by its effects. Some theologians speculate, is smokeless fire a code for plasma, for neutrinos, for some higher dimensional energy? The mystic, content with mystery, recites, of knowledge you have been given but little. The caution is perennial. Mystery is not a gap but a perimeter, humming with the warning. Here be dragons, and the dragons bow. Yet for all the abstraction, there is the testimony of horror, raw, personal, and unassuaged by philosophy. The apothecary of Qazvin, whose mortar and pestle moved unbidden by human hand, hid in his rafters and glimpsed a vapor coalesce into a hand of flame. He vanished, and his shop was found abandoned, every jar labeled with the same scratched warning, "Complain not." In Tehran, during the hostage crisis, a tape recorder captured a voice reciting Surah Al-Jinn backwards, ending with the command, "Turn the iron on him." The generator exploded, and the tape was erased, but the memory was not. In Al-Asa, a child's heart monitor printed Quranic script instead of pulses, each letter ending in a choking dot. The child survived but spoke only once, in archaic Arabic, "Do not summon me again." The theologian who denied the jinn found himself struck mute. His tongue stuck to his palate whenever he invoked the divine. He vomited glass, and his final words were a warning. They were listening while I was not. In Marawi, survivors of siege spoke of shadows that lured them into sniper alleys with promises of safety. Only the recitation of Surat Al with Mekron Ffa with Mekron T drove them away, leaving soot glyphs on the wall. So it continues in every age and every tongue. The jinn are not buried in the past, nor are they exiled to the periphery. They endure, malleable and malign, patient as erosion but swift as a flicker of flame. They are the horror that watches, the terror that waits, the whisper at the threshold of sleep. Lock your doors, recite your verses, but know that the true peril is not in what is seen, but in what listens, always, from the darkness. The Quran, as it unfolds its layered vision of creation, refuses to draw a neat curtain between the visible and invisible. In Surah Al-Jinn itself, the eponymous beings speak in their own voice, and among us are the righteous, and among us are otherwise. We are sects divided. The effect is disquieting, for the jinn are not a monolith, nor are they mere adversaries to humanity. Their world is tangled with ours, their histories braided through the loom of prophecy and prayer, their fates. So the text insists, just as contingent, just as tragic. The Quran's language, in its precision, is also an invitation to humility. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. The verse is unequivocal. Whatever their origin in fire, their ultimate destiny is one of obligation and accountability. The Quran does not indulge in Gothic excess. Its horror is the horror of proximity, of moral kinship. The jinn are not wholly alien. They are cousins, charged with the same burden of meaning, the same possibility of grace or ruin. The prophetic narrations, or Hadith, embroider this foundation with a web of lived encounters. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have said, "Every one of you has been assigned a companion from among the jinn." When asked whether this applied to him as well, he replied, "Even me, except that Allah has helped me against him and he has become Muslim." Here, the metaphysical becomes uncomfortably intimate. Not only are the jinn present, they are assigned, a lifelong shadow at the edge of every intention. Some traditions even suggest that the jinn are responsible for the stray, sudden thoughts of malice or despair that flicker through the most devout heart. The doctrine of Qareen, a personal jinn companion, has become a fixture of Islamic psychology, a way of naming the intractable, the intrusive, the persistent hinterland of the mind's own darkness. Yet there are moments in the Hadith literature where the terror is not just psychological, but physical, immediate, and unvarnished. The Prophet's companions ask him about the sudden deaths and mysterious illnesses that beset their children, their livestock, their very selves. He replies that certain places are the haunts of the jinn: ruins, latrines, crossroads at dusk, the silence before the dawn. He instructs his followers to utter the basmala, the invocation in the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Upon entering such liminal spaces, the implication is clear. The world is a map pockmarked with thresholds, and the jinn are not always malicious, but they are always, in their way, territorial. To pass through their domains unannounced is to invite injury, possession, or worse. This sense of a world riven with thin places, of a landscape haunted not just by history but by the active presence of the unseen, is not a relic of the past. It endures in the stories told at desert firesides, in the caution with which a mother warns her children not to pour hot water onto bare earth, lest they scald a lurking jinn. It endures, too, in the most modern of settings. A Saudi engineer, working on a remote oil rig, recounts the night the generator failed and the radios filled with static that resolved, after an hour, into the sound of children reciting the Quran backwards. The crew, seasoned men of science and oil, spent the rest of the week sleeping in shifts, the lights never allowed to dim. The intersection of the jinn with the contemporary psyche is especially sharp in the field of medicine. While Western psychiatry may treat auditory hallucinations and possession states as mere epiphenomena of the brain, in much of the Muslim world, the diagnosis is still negotiated between two worlds. In Cairo's hospitals, a psychiatrist might prescribe both an antipsychotic and a referral to the local sheikh. The Ruqyah session, recitation of Quranic verses over the afflicted, is as much a part of the healing as the medicine. Some patients, after months of refractory symptoms, find sudden relief when the verses are recited. Others do not. The ambiguity is not easily banished. In the face of such cases, even skeptical doctors sometimes admit that, There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. The law, that last refuge of certainty, does not escape the jinn's shadow. Classical jurists, confronted with cases of violence, theft, or even murder blamed upon possession, were forced to wrestle with questions that reveal the porousness of the boundaries between the human and the unseen. Is a man responsible for his crimes if he is, by his own account, not himself but another? Does the testimony of witnesses stand if they believe the perpetrator was under jinn influence? Most schools of law insisted upon the supremacy of reason and evidence. Yet the door was never entirely closed. The Quran's warning, "We have honored the children of Adam," was often invoked, but so too was the counsel of caution. Avoid the places the jinn are known to frequent, do not provoke them, and if harm comes, seek protection in the verses of God. The landscape itself is a palimpsest of warnings. In Oman, mountain villages are built with their windows facing away from certain ravines, where the wind is said to carry voices. In the Maghrib, the ruins of Roman forts are left undisturbed, for they are believed to be the courts of the married jinn. In the empty quarter, caravans travel in silence past certain lone acacias, never camping beneath their shadow. The very names of places, Wadi al-Jinn, al-Kafa, are reminders that not all territory is meant to be traversed by human foot. The horror of the jinn is not always in the spectacular or the grotesque. Often, it is in the slow corrosion of certainty, in the sense that the world is not, after all, meant to be fully known. The philosopher might argue that the jinn are projections, avatars of anxiety in a world that refuses to be tamed. But even the philosopher, when confronted with the inexplicable, the voice on the tape, the shadow in the corner, the chill that does not recede with the dawn, must concede that the boundaries of the real are as fragile as the sliver of time between dusk and night. Yet Islam does not leave its followers defenseless. The Prophet's prescription is not exorcism but remembrance, not magic but liturgy. The fortress verses, Al-Falaq and An-Nas, are to be recited at daybreak and nightfall, at times of fear, before sleep. The act of prostration, sajda, is itself a ward, an alignment of the self with the axis of the cosmic order. In the moment of full surrender, the devil is said to weep. The son of Adam was commanded to prostrate and he obeyed. I was commanded and I rebelled. It is an irony that cuts both ways. The act that marks human submission is the act that most infuriates the unseen adversary. Artisans, too, have their remedies. In the souks of Fez and Cairo, copper and silver amulets are inscribed with verses, sometimes from the Quran, sometimes from the Psalms, often a syncretic alloy of both. These are worn next to the skin, stitched into children's clothing, buried at the threshold of a new house. The educated may scoff, but the tradition persists. Overlapping layers of protection, a chainmail of words and symbols intended to turn aside the predatory gaze. Yet even these defenses are not always proof against the last horror. The Quran, in its eschatological vision, strips away the final veil. On the day when the sky is rolled up like a parchment, when all that is hidden is exposed, every human will see his Qareen, his companion jinn, face to face. The excuses will dissolve, the shadows become substance. In that blaze, there is no longer refuge in ambiguity. They will find what they did present. The jinn, for all their fire, are not immune to judgment. Their fate, like ours, is weighed on the same scale, measured by the same standard. So the circle closes, the ancient terror undiminished by the passage of centuries. The jinn remain, not as relics of a credulous past, but as evidence that the world is stranger, more porous, more haunted than we like to admit. Their presence is a goad to humility, a reminder that knowledge, however dazzling, remains partial, that the perimeter of the known is always encircled by the whispering dark. Lock your doors, recite your verses, but do not imagine that you are alone. For in the hush that precedes the dawn, when the walls seem thinner, when the air hums with remembered dread, the truth is as it always was. You are watched, and the watcher may be as old as fire. And so, The narrative of the Jinn does not simply dissolve into the abstract, nor does it remain neatly caged in ancient parchment. Its manifestations are perennial, endlessly adapted to the anxieties and technologies of each new age. The old desert stories echo in the corridors of modern life, their note of warning as urgent as ever. In the Arabian Peninsula, the presence of the Jinn is a lived reality, a matter woven into the warp and weft of daily existence. The Bedouin, whose relationship with the desert is both adversarial and reverent, have always spoken of the thin places, those stretches of sand or stone where the fabric of the world seems worn and the unseen is dangerously close. In the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, there are said to be entire cities of Jinn, veiled by mirage and madness. Bedouin guides recount, with an unembarrassed seriousness, how the cries of a camel in the night are sometimes answered by voices that come from nowhere, voices that mimic, mock, or forewarn. The wise do not reply. They tighten their cloaks, recite their verses, and press on, trusting in God rather than curiosity. The language of geography itself is haunted by these presences. There are valleys named for the Jinn, Wadi al-Jinn, where compasses spin and cars are said to coast uphill of their own accord. There are wells, such as Bir al-Kafa, where ropes are found frayed or gnawed, and no one draws water after sunset. Even the names of some towns, their etymologies lost to time, are said to be the remnants of pacts or warnings. Here the Jinn once walked. Here the boundary was set. The stories, passed from elder to youth, are not mere entertainments but lessons in caution, humility, and the limits of human mastery. Take, for instance, the tale of the judge who scoffed at the idea of the Jinn. A man of letters, he dismissed cases of possession as mere hysteria or fraud. One night, as he prepared his notes for a lecture debunking such superstitions, he found his ink welling with a substance like tar, and his tongue, so quick in the law court, glued to the roof of his mouth. He could not speak nor write. The physicians found nothing amiss. When he recovered, his first words were a retraction. There are listeners we do not see. Such tales are not confined to the remote or the credulous. In the city, the Jinn have taken to new forms, inhabiting the circuitry of the modern world. A young engineer in Dubai recounted how, during a fit of insomnia, he watched the lights in his flat pulse in time to an inaudible rhythm. When he played back a voice memo, he heard a language he did not know, a sound like wind through a broken window. He moved house. The phenomenon did not return, but he is careful now to offer the basmala when entering a room, even one constructed of steel and glass. There are, of course, those who seek out the Jinn, magicians, charlatans, seekers of forbidden knowledge. The Quran and the Prophet's practice are unambiguous. Such commerce is haram, a trespass that brings only ruin. The story of the mirror cascade, recounted in more than one city, is a cautionary emblem. Those who attempt to summon the Jinn with incantations and arrays of glass, hoping for a glimpse of the hidden, find themselves not enlightened but unmoored. Some are never the same again. They speak in riddles or fall silent altogether, their minds scorched as if by the very fire from which the Jinn were made. Yet the fascination endures. In the souks of Marrakesh or the alleys of Old Cairo, talismans inscribed with Quranic verses are sold beside herbs and amulets. The sellers are pragmatic. God protects, but the verses help. Among the items are copper discs, carnelian stones, and slips of parchment folded in elaborate knots, all meant to ward off the evil eye and the touch of the Jinn. The educated may mock, but they too purchase the amulets for their children, for their newly built homes, for the sickbed of a relative for whom medicine has failed. This blending of the sacred and the practical is part of what gives the world of the Jinn its enduring power. It is at once theological and psychological, a space where uncertainty is given a name and a ritual. The Jinn are not simply the leftover ghosts of a pre-scientific world. They are the shape that fear takes when the ordinary explanations fail. They are the night terrors of the child, the inexplicable misfortune of the adult, the shudder that cannot be explained away by a draft or a faulty wire. Yet Islam's approach, for all its warnings, is ultimately one of equilibrium. The jinn are not to be denied, nor are they to be obsessed over. The Prophet's guidance is always towards remembrance and restraint, never towards panic or fixation. The proper recitation of the morning and evening supplications, the habit of invoking God's name before entering a place of uncertainty, the discipline of prayer, these are the true fortresses. The world is not to be abandoned to dread, but inhabited with mindful humility. Still, the stories persist, not just as warnings but as proof that the world is larger and stranger than we imagine. In the villages of the Hijaz, there are tales of a night when the wells sang, and those who listened too closely were found wandering the next day, their memories scrambled. In the outskirts of Amman, a taxi driver tells how he once gave a ride to a passenger who vanished without opening the door, leaving only the scent of rain on hot stone. The eschatological promise remains. On the day when all is unveiled, the jinn and humankind alike will be summoned to account. The Quran's vision is not one of annihilation but of justice. The scales balanced for every secret, every whisper, every trespass. Until then, the world is a corridor of conjunction and collision, a theater where clay and fire, seen and unseen, move in and out of each other's stories. And so, in the thickest hour before dawn, as you listen to the hush that follows your own heartbeat, remember that the world is not empty, that your solitude is a fiction, and that the oldest word is still the command to read. Recite, not in panic, but in awe, for the watchers endure, and the next whisper may be closer than your breath. In the long corridors of Islamic civilization, from the windswept tents of the Hijaz to the tiled courtyards of Andalusia, the jinn have remained an unshakable presence, a subject of both cautious dread and creative speculation. Their stories are not mere relics, but living things, adapted to every age, their outlines shifting yet always recognizable in the collective memory. Where the Quran and Hadith are silent, the people embroider the gaps with folklore, and where folk tradition phrase, learned commentary rushes in, attempting to discipline the wildness of these accounts with the cool logic of exegesis. This interplay between scripture and story is perhaps nowhere more vivid than in the tales of those who claim to have come into direct contact with the jinn. In the bazaars of Qazvin, it is said, the apothecary's mortar would grind without a hand to guide it, and curious onlookers would find their courage wither under a gaze they could not see. In the alleyways of old Sana'a, mothers tell their children not to linger near the shadow of certain trees at dusk, lest they be snatched by the Sila, a being whose beauty is fatal, whose hunger is never sated. Each region has its own taxonomy, its own warnings, yet always the lesson is the same. To trespass thoughtlessly is to risk calamity. The legal tradition, for all its rationalism, is not immune to such stories. The classical manuals of fiqh recount dilemmas that would be risible were they not so earnest. What is to be done if a jinn destroys property, or if a human is accused of consorting with the unseen? The answers are typically cautious, deferring to the limits of human knowledge and the ultimate justice of God. In some cases, the law bends to accommodate the inexplicable, granting annulments for marriages blighted by spectral interference, or excusing actions committed during alleged possession. The principle is always the same. Human dignity is to be preserved, and where certainty fails, mercy prevails. Yet the jinn are not merely a problem for the law, nor merely a motif for the storyteller. They are also a subject for the theologian and the philosopher, who see in their ambiguous nature a reflection of deeper truths about the cosmos. The jinn are neither wholly spiritual nor wholly material. They are beings of smokeless fire, liminal, elusive, a challenge to the binaries that structure our understanding of creation. Some Sufi mystics have seen in the jinn a metaphor for the lower impulses of the soul, restless, cunning, prone to rebellion, while others have taken their reality at face value, warning disciples not to mistake the symbolic for the literal, lest they open the wrong door. In the world of the living, the presence of the jinn is sometimes felt as a weight, sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a cold wind that passes without explanation. There are families who will not build on certain ground, for fear of offending the ancient tenants who dwell beneath. There are houses left empty for generations, their windows staring blindly because of a story, half forgotten, half remembered, of lights that moved inside when no one was home, of laughter where there should have been none. There are children who grow up with the certainty that not every friend is visible, and that some games should not be played after sunset. The relationship with the jinn is not always adversarial. The Quran speaks of jinn who listened to the Prophet and became Muslims, who worship alongside humans in their own way, who share in the obligations and the possibility of salvation. The Hadith literature, too, contains glimpses of cooperation and dialogue, most famously in the episode where the Prophet was taken by night to teach the jinn, returning at dawn with the scent of their fires clinging to his cloak. In some regions, there are even tales of friendships, of pacts made for mutual aid, though always shadowed by the risk of betrayal. For the jinn, like humans, are free, and freedom can be a source of both grace and disaster. With the advent of modernity, some have expected the world of the jinn to fade, replaced by the cold calculus of science and the fluorescent glare of electricity. Yet the opposite has often proved true. The jinn have adapted, finding new ways to manifest. Those who once moved in the desert wind now flicker in the hum of a faulty transformer, or speak through the static of an untuned radio. Paranormal investigators in Cairo record voices on magnetic tape. Engineers in Riyadh explain away inexplicable malfunctions with a shrug and a muttered bismillah. The old and the new coexist, woven together in a tapestry that refuses to be unpicked by reason alone. The psychiatrist's consulting room is a new frontier for these ancient anxieties. Here, the debate is not just about the reality of the jinn, but about the nature of suffering itself. When a patient hears voices, or is seized by an invisible force, is it madness or possession? In many cases, the answer is both, or neither. The most successful treatments are often those that acknowledge the patient's world, that allow for the possibility of more than one kind of healing. A session of Ruqyah, a course of medication, a word of reassurance, each may play its part, and the boundaries between the medical and the spiritual blur. The jinn, ever elusive, remain at the edge of certainty, a challenge to any system that claims to explain everything. As the world grows more complex, the stories of the jinn continue to multiply, to adapt, to haunt the imagination of believers and skeptics alike. They are a reminder that the world is never fully ours, that there are always others, seen and unseen, who share its corridors with us. In the end, the lesson of the jinn may be less about fear and more about humility. A call to recognize the limits of our knowledge, the fragility of our certainties, and the need for protection that comes not from amulets or incantations alone, but from a heart turned towards the Creator. And so, as the night deepens and the city's last lights flicker, the watcher at the threshold remains. If the silence is too complete, if the air seems charged with a presence just beyond the edge of vision, do not be quick to dismiss the old wisdom. Recite, remember, and do not look too closely into the dark. For some questions, once asked, can never be unsaid, and some presences, once invited, will not easily depart. Even as the jinn remain a topic of ancient rumor and medieval speculation, their presence is woven subtly into the intellectual and artistic fabric of Islamic civilization. Poets and storytellers have, for centuries, found in the jinn a metaphor for inspiration and a cipher for the inexplicable. The celebrated mu'allaqat, those pre-Islamic odes suspended in gold upon the walls of Mecca, are themselves haunted by the boast that the poet's gift comes from a shayn, a supernatural companion who whispers verses that astonish and unnerve. Later, in the courtly salons of Damascus and Baghdad, tales of jinn were recounted not merely as warnings, but as invitations to imagine worlds where the boundaries of reality are porous, where longing and terror coalesce. It is perhaps in the famed collection of 1001 Nights that the jinn achieve their most protean and unsettling form. Here, they are not only agents of horror, spirits who possess, torment, and deceive, but also bearers of strange gifts, creators of palaces, lovers, and avengers. Scheherazade stories, told night after night to forestall death, are populated by jinn who can lift a man from squalor to splendor or dash him to the abyss in a single caprice. The lesson is double-edged. The unseen is not always malevolent, but it is never safe. To bargain with the jinn, whether for love or for power, is to wager one's soul against forces that neither explain nor apologize. This ambivalence persists in Islamic art and architecture. In the intricate arabesques that adorn the mosques of Fez or the palaces of Granada, one finds echoes of the jinn's world. Patterns that hint at infinity, at shapes half seen behind the veil of matter. The motif of the hidden garden, a place concealed from ordinary sight, is both a symbol of paradise and a memory of the jinn-haunted groves of pre-Islamic Arabia. Even in the calligraphy that transforms the word into ornament, there is a yearning for the kind of beauty that is always at risk, beauty that must be protected from envy, from the evil eye, from the jealous gaze of unseen watchers. The scientific age has not vanquished these intuitions. Instead, it has offered new vocabularies and analogies. The description of the jinn as beings of smokeless fire finds a curious resonance in the language of plasma physics, with its talk of invisible energies, filaments, and vortices. Some Muslim thinkers have speculated, cautiously, that the jinn might inhabit dimensions inaccessible to ordinary sense, their presence inferred only by their effects, much as dark matter is discerned by its gravitational pull. Others, more mystical, insist that the jinn remain fundamentally moral and spiritual entities, not reducible to the equations of physics but expressive of the world's irreducible mystery. In the popular imagination, however, the old fears persist. Modern horror stories, circulated in WhatsApp groups and YouTube channels, recount encounters that echo their ancient roots. A child who speaks in an unknown tongue, a flat where objects move unbidden, a roadside apparition that vanishes when approached. The language may shift, electrical malfunctions replace haunted wells, CCTV footage stands in for the testimony of elders, but the underlying structure remains. The world is not fully mapped, not fully mastered, and the jinn are its living proof. This tension between mastery and humility is one of the central lessons the tradition imparts. To acknowledge the jinn is to admit that not everything can be explained, that not every question has an answer. It is also to recognize the limits of protection. Verses from the Quran, honest prayer, and the discipline of remembrance are the true fortresses. Amulets and superstitions, for all their allure, are only as effective as the sincerity with which they are employed. The Prophet's own practice was to recite the fortress verses, to trust in God's mercy, and to warn against reckless curiosity. The final horror, and perhaps the final comfort, is eschatological. On the last day, when all secrets are revealed and all veils torn away, the jinn and humanity will stand together before the throne, their deeds weighed, their stories heard. The Quran's promise is that justice will be done, that the watchers and the watched will face the same reckoning, the same hope of mercy. Until then, the world remains a stage for conjunction and collision, for moments of terror and grace, for the endless negotiation between what is known and what is feared. And as the world turns, and the night deepens, the ancient injunction remains. Do not be naked before the unseen. Recite, remember, and walk with caution. For in every silence, there may be listeners. In every shadow, there may be watchers. And in every heart, a question that is itself a kind of prayer. The persistence of the jinn in the Islamic imagination is, at its core, a testament to the enduring power of stories that refuse to be exorcised by the march of reason. Their presence is not only an artifact of old fears but a living, dynamic force, shaping the emotional and spiritual landscape of millions. In the public square and the private mind, the jinn are invoked to explain the inexplicable. A sudden illness, a run of misfortune, a house that will not stay warm, a glance that lingers too long in the mirror after midnight. The jinn are the vocabulary of disruption, the grammar of events that defy the mundane order. It is not by accident that these beings have outlived the gods and demons of other civilizations. The jinn occupy a place just adjacent to the human, a proximity coded into the Quran itself, which asserts, "Indeed, he, Iblis, and his tribe see you from where you do not see them." This is not the distant terror of the monstrous, but the unsettling intimacy of the companion, the rival, the neighbor with a locked door. The Quran's narrative is, in this sense, deeply democratic. The jinn are subject to the same moral laws, the same judgment, the same possibility of redemption or damnation. They are, in the end, too much like us for comfort. This proximity has meant that the jinn are not always the adversary. Sometimes, as tradition and tale record, they are the interlocutor, the witness, even the ally. Among the Sufis, especially in the tales of the desert ascetics, there are accounts of jinn who attended the circles of Dikr, drawing close to the light they sensed in the hearts of the truly devout. There are stories, subtle, ambiguous, of jinn who warned their human friends of danger, or who brought news from afar, or who wept at the recitation of the Quran. These moments of tenderness are always balanced by reminders of the risk. The jinn, like freedom itself, are never tame. In the literary tradition, this ambiguity is a source of endless fascination. The jinn are the engine of countless stories, their motives and natures as mutable as the desert wind. They tempt, they rescue, they punish, they reward. In the Maqamat of Al-Hariri, the jinn appear not as monsters but as tricksters, challenging the hero's wit and resourcefulness, upending the apparent order of things. In the medieval romances and the tales of travelers, the jinn are both a source of peril and a wellspring of marvels. Gatekeepers to hidden knowledge, guardians of forgotten cities, keepers of secrets that can be gift or poison. The greatest horror, perhaps, lies not in the grotesque or the violent, but in the subtle sense of trespass. The world of the jinn is a world of boundaries. Between night and day, city and ruin, word and silence, certainty and doubt. To cross these boundaries unprepared is to risk not simply harm, but a loss of self, a confusion of identity that lingers long after the encounter has ended. The stories told by the firelight, or whispered on moonless nights, are warnings as much as entertainments. Reminders that not all doors should be opened, not all names spoken, not all invitations accepted. In contemporary society, the jinn are less likely to be invoked in legal proceedings or public rituals, but their presence is no less real in the imagination. They haunt the margins of everyday life, surfacing in moments of crisis, in the liminal hours between waking and sleep. Young people in Cairo and Casablanca, in Kuala Lumpur and Manchester, share stories on social media of inexplicable events. The click of a switch in an empty room, the chill that falls without a draft, the shadow that lingers a little too long in the CCTV feed. The jinn have become, in the digital age, the ghosts of the machine, the lingering possibility that not everything can be debugged or explained away. Such stories are not simply vestiges of superstition. They are, in a sense, the collective negotiation of modernity's limits, a way of acknowledging that, for all our knowledge and power, there are still forces beyond calculation, still mysteries that resist closure. The jinn are the figure of the outside, the otherness that is not simply alien but entangled with the self, the society, the city. They are the wildness that endures at the heart of the world, and in that wildness, both terror and possibility. Theologically, the ultimate lesson is one of humility and vigilance. The Quran's vision is not of a world tamed and explained, but of a world watched over, traversed by invisible actors whose stories intersect with our own in ways we may never fully grasp. The Prophet's advice is to be neither paralyzed by fear nor emboldened by arrogance. Recite the fortress verses. Greet the unseen with respect, but do not court their company. Live in awareness that the world is deeper and more crowded than it seems. For what is true in the desert is true in the city, and what is true in the city holds as the night gathers at the window. The watchers endure, the listeners wait, and the oldest word is still the safest and the best. Iqra, read. Read with care, with awe, with the humility of one who knows that the next whisper may be a test, a gift, or a warning not to be ignored. As the centuries have unfolded, the jinn have persisted not only as a subject of religious discourse and folk memory, but as a living presence in the cultural and psychological landscape of Muslim societies. Their adaptability, their refusal to be confined to any one domain, be it the ancient desert or the urban maze, ensures their continued relevance. And so, the jinn are invoked not only in moments of supernatural dread, but also in the negotiation of everyday uncertainty, the management of unexplained trauma, and the articulation of what is ultimately unknowable. In the literary imagination, the jinn provide a canvas for both horror and wonder. Contemporary Muslim writers have reworked the old tales for new audiences, drawing upon the ambiguous morality and liminal nature of the jinn to explore themes of exile, longing, and identity. In novels and short stories, the jinn are sometimes the voice of conscience, sometimes the echo of suppressed desire, sometimes the agent of change that disrupts the apparent order of things. This literary use is not mere escapism. It reflects the way in which the tradition itself has always understood the jinn, not as distant monsters, but as neighbors, rivals, sometimes even mirrors held up to the human soul. Cinema and visual art, too, have found ways to evoke the jinn's unsettling presence. Filmmakers in Egypt, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Turkey have used the motif of possession or haunting to probe the anxieties of modern life. Alienation, rapid change, the breakdown of tradition. The jinn, in these stories, are not only the source of terror but the sign that the boundaries between past and present, village and city, sacred and profane, are always subject to negotiation. In paintings and digital media, the jinn may appear as shadows, as patterns in the dust, as flickers of movement just beyond the frame. Their presence is always felt, if not always seen. A reminder that the world is alive with meanings that resist easy capture. This sense of a world populated by the unseen is, for many, a source of comfort as much as fear. The jinn are invoked when misfortune strikes without cause, when illness resists medicine, when a house or a life seems to have fallen under a shadow. In these moments, the tradition offers not only stories but rituals. The recitation of specific verses, the burning of incense, the careful observance of boundaries and etiquette. The purpose is not simply to ward off evil, but to restore a sense of order and meaning, to assure the sufferer that their plight is not random but part of a larger, if mysterious, pattern. In theological reflection, the reality of the jinn invites a reconsideration of the boundaries between the material and the spiritual, the psychological and the metaphysical. Muslim scholars have debated the extent to which jinn possession can be distinguished from mental illness, and whether the two might sometimes coexist. The tradition's refusal to settle for easy answers, its willingness to hold open the possibility of multiple explanations, has helped to shape a culture in which mystery is not a failure, but a sign of depth. To speak of the jinn is, in a sense, to acknowledge that the world is always greater than our grasp, and that humility before the unseen is a virtue in its own right. This humility is, ultimately, the gift of the jinn to the Islamic imagination. They are the enduring lesson that certainty is always provisional, that the fire of knowledge must be tempered by the clay of caution. The Quran's insistence on the accountability of the jinn, its promise of judgment and justice, is a reminder that even the most unruly forces are subject to order, that every whisper and every shadow will one day be brought into the light. The modern Muslim, like those who came before, lives in a world both illuminated and haunted, a world in which the unseen is not a superstition to be dismissed, but a reality to be navigated with wit, with reverence, and with the fortifying power of prayer. The fortress verses, the etiquette of greeting the night, the refusal to linger at the crossroads or the ruins. These are not relics but living practices, woven into the texture of daily life. And so, as the night deepens and the city grows quiet, the old wisdom persists. The doors are locked, the verses are recited, the candles are watched for signs in the flame. The world is not empty, nor entirely safe, nor ever fully known. In the pause before sleep, in the hush that lingers at the edge of the mind, the jinn endure, sometimes as terror, sometimes as comfort, always as a reminder that the story is never wholly ours alone. Conclusion. To contemplate the jinn is to stand at the very threshold of the known world, peering into a darkness that is neither empty nor silent. From the earliest stirrings of pre-Islamic poetry to the unflinching testimony of the Quran and the cautionary advice of the Prophet, the jinn have been companions, sometimes adversaries, sometimes neighbors, always present in the shadows of human experience. They are written into the folds of Islamic cosmology not as mere allegories, but as purposeful beings, endowed with freedom, capable of virtue and vice, subject to the same ultimate justice as humankind. The horror they inspire is never simply a matter of frightful tales or superstitious dread. It is, rather, an existential unease, a trembling before a world alive with unseen agency, a cosmos in which the human is never alone and never truly sovereign. The stories of the jinn, whether whispered by desert fires or recounted in city flats, are not just entertainments or explanations for the inexplicable, but lessons in humility. They remind us that the reach of our senses and the power of our science remain bounded, that the realm of the unseen is vast, and that arrogance before the mysteries of creation invites both folly and ruin. Yet the jinn are not only harbingers of fear. Their presence is also a call to vigilance, to mindfulness, to the recitation of verses and the observance of boundaries. They are the cosmic other, but also our mirrors, creative, willful, capricious, and accountable. The Quran's insistence that the jinn, like humankind, are called to worship and destined for judgment is a profound leveling, an assertion that the drama of good and evil, of striving and failing, is not uniquely human but cosmic. In the modern world, where the jinn have taken up residence in the circuitry and architecture of daily life as much as in ancient ruins and wastelands, they continue to haunt the imagination, to disrupt the arrogance of certainty, to provide a vocabulary for the uncanny, the traumatic, and the unexplained. Their stories have migrated from the lips of wandering poets to the screens of smartphones, but their function remains unchanged. To keep alive the awareness that not everything can be seen, controlled, or anticipated. The wisdom of the tradition, then, is not to seek the jinn, nor to deny their existence out of hand, but to live with the knowledge of their possibility. To lock one's doors, to recite one's verses, to show respect for thresholds and ruins. These are not merely relics, but gestures of humility before a world whose fullness exceeds our grasp. As the Quran closes with its fortress chapters, so the believer clothes himself in remembrance, fortifying the heart and home against what cannot be seen, but must not be ignored. In the end, whether as terror or as parable, the jinn endure, not only in the deserts of Arabia, but in every mind that has ever wondered what stirs, just out of sight, when the last embers die and the silence thickens. They are the reminder that knowledge is always incomplete, that creation is layered and mysterious, and that the first word, Iqra, read, is both an invitation and a warning. For in the world shaped by Quran and memory, the next whisper may be a test, or a gift, or a spark. And in that knowledge, the wise do not panic. They recite, they remember, and they proceed with awe. Thus, the corridors of conjunction and collision are never fully traversed. The watchers endure, and the story, like the jinn themselves, will always linger, just beyond the reach of the lamplight, waiting to be retold. If you found these reflections illuminating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. May your path be guided by wisdom, and may your nights be guarded by remembrance.